This is it. September 4th, AD 476. We head to the seat of government in the Western Roman Empire. That's Ravenna, not Rome. Ravenna has 30-foot tall walls. They're 8 feet deep, and that has the real throne. The real throne, run by puppet masters. There's a teen boy sitting on this throne. In this lesson, we see the end. We see how the puppet masters are doing it. We understand what this throne is all about, what the symbolism is. And I can introduce you to the son of a man who was insulted at a king's table. He's a Goth. He's a barbarian. His name is Odoacer. I'm Mr. Hull. This is Ancient History. Welcome to Classical Kingdoms, where history reveals truth and wisdom for your journey to ancient Rome, the final days. This is when the throne officially has been overturned. It's gone. I can hand you something from this. It's a piece of the past worth knowing. Who Odoacer is. What's the symbolism of the boy who was on the throne? His name is Romulus Augustulus. How did he get there? We're going to learn from Rome's mistakes, and they're not isolated to this one event. It's everything that has led up to this. The fall of Rome is many different factors interacting over time. Let's begin. If the Western Roman Empire was this hero, power and glory lasting for over 1,000 years, then we want to know what happened. It was the division, the defense, the debt, the death, and decay, 5 reasons for the fall of Rome. This is Lesson 71 on the death, the overthrown government. We've been covering Rome in a series of lessons. We also have the Ancient History Survey in Lesson 27, Barbarian Kingdoms. That book is on Amazon, is really the end of the Italian peninsula's stronghold of this old Roman Empire. And Ravenna is in the north, an interesting marshy capital, holding court. And just across the Adriatic in Dalmatia is Julius Nepos. He is somebody that claims to be the emperor, and he is recognized by Constantinople, the emperor in Constantinople, that is Zeno. So Zeno, the emperor in the east, is recognizing Nepos, not the kid. In Ravenna, we've got some factions to just pay attention to here. The army of Italy, who's defending that peninsula and supposedly Ravenna too, that is a federate group of soldiers, the foederati. These are just different barbarian troops and the old Roman troops that are supposed to be getting paid. They're kind of an unpaid workforce. Just last lesson 70, you saw the economic problems. And so the Ravenna court is run by puppet masters and some of the generals with power and the teenage emperor. Some context would be really interesting, just going back a few years to AD 449. Attila the Hun, the Huns. We head about 1,000 miles away in the court of Attila the Hun. There's luxurious wine and mare's milk, the firelight. This is Roman historian named Priscus, who's sitting in the room and recording what he sees. Roman envoys hand out diplomatic gifts, treasures from Rome, like the silk robes, the Indian pearls, and Orestes gets a set of the gifts. He's a proud Roman official from Pannonia. He's serving as Attila's secretary. An identical honor goes to Edecon. That's a Hunnish guardsman. Now, a Roman with hereditary rank is being, gifted equally with a barbarian bodyguard, this Hun. Well, these two guys have a rivalry that begins. These fathers quarrel over rank in front of this foreign king's table. The sons of these two men are going to settle it in future generation over the throne of Rome, because Edecon has the son named Odoacer, a mixed barbarian blood, an Arian Christian. In this culture, he's been raised in the Huns world that was left behind, that the barbarians have absorbed and now are taking power. We're up to the year AD 476, when Odoacer is loyal, respected as a commander of some of these troops. But is Odoacer part of the Roman machine, really himself? The classical imperial authority stands on 4 pillars. 1, the supreme commander of these armies. Number 2, throne is the supreme lawgiver. Number 3, the throne is the guardian of the religion. And number 4, the throne is the dispenser of honors and legitimacy. It's why coins are minted with the emperor on it. Legitimacy and authority, and that should be accepted as the rightful ruler. That throne. I'm saying throne because we know there's a teenage boy there, and you know there's some part of the understanding how he got there and who's really the puppet master. But the collapse of the economy has dissolved some of that authority, with the treasury being so empty, the Roman army, some of these not getting paid very well. And the fact that a teenage boy is running things, it means the soldiers are loyal to the magister militum, more so than any government, any throne. Emperor is a puppet. The master of the soldiers is the top general, not the emperor. And law giving is not really the emperor. It's the generalissimos. The religion, not really the emperor. It's handed off to bishops now. And legitimacy is really in the East with Constantinople, as people tried to recognize what is left here. So I ask you, why is the strong man not just the emperor? Any idea? Well, I need to introduce you to a new strong man, Ricimer, and he had a different idea. For the past 17 years, he has churned through 8 different puppets, like Petronius, Maximus, Avitus, Majorian, Glycerius, and Nepos across the sea. That's 8 different in 21 years. We're back to the political instability problem that has happened before, especially in the 3rd century. Ricimer never once took that purple on for himself. One big reason is because of his barbarian descent. He would not be truly accepted by the Senate and the old Roman ways. Even the church, the bishops, and the Eastern court in Constantinople wouldn't recognize Ricimer. So what does he do? He gets the puppet job. Pretty good puppet master to recognize the need for the recognition from the East and the church, and to keep someone on that throne. But ultimately, this throne is hollow, and we still have an unpaid army. Now, what about Orestes? Remember back at Attila's table? October 31st, AD 475, Orestes has risen all the way to Magister Militum under Nepos, the Emperor Nepos. He comes across the sea and seizes Ravenna. Nepos flees across the Adriatic to Dalmatia, still recognized by the East, but he's ruling from exile. And then Orestes does something. Do you expect it? You don't expect it. Orestes refuses to take the crown. In his wisdom, he sees a different path. Well, I guess it's not a different path. It's Ricimer's path. If he puts his son on the throne, Orestes could rule as the father of the throne, as a puppet master. His son is barely 12, 13, maybe 15 years old at the most, but his name with gravitas, it's Romulus Augustulus. Romulus, he's named after his maternal grandfather. That was a nobleman. Romulus takes us back to the original founder of Rome, the first king. And Augustulus is like saying little Augustus. And that was a family name too. Scholars think Romulus Augustulus was born between AD 460 and 465. His mother was a noblewoman named Barbaria. And Romulus Augustulus, it's a fitting name. And for the first 10 months, The boy king decides literally nothing. He commands nothing. He builds nothing. But his father is putting his face on the money. Why? Because gold solidi are the authority symbol. He's putting his young son's face on minted money, gold coins, trusted size, the solidi. And the mint still is producing money that you can trust. Are you hopeful that somehow this story will take a twist, a turn away from the fall of Rome? Because that at least is a recipe for success. So what do you think is going to go wrong? Well, in the Easternized Nepos in Dalmatia is still the lawful Western emperor. By summer, AD 476, the stakes have really climbed because of the federates, those troops, the barbarian troops. The tertiae, 1/3 share of Italy, was one demand. They wanted land for themselves. This was a way to be legitimized and paid. They're in Italy. Romulus Augustulus is in charge. So what is the decision? Well, it's Orestes who's making the decision, and he says no. It's the old pride from Attila's table, because he's saying no to some of these barbarian groups, and it includes Odoacer, the son of Edecon. Odoacer is ruling his troops right there. What would you do in that situation? You are owed payment for serving in this military, and you're asking for land. Orestes knows by taking land, you're going to undermine the authority even further of the throne, and that is his son. Skip ahead to late August 28th at Piacenza. Orestes' forces are confronted by Odoacer's. They're defeated. Odoacer captures Orestes. Orestes is executed. This is the feud, but the second generation has resolved this feud now. What's next? How is Romulus Augustulus going to escape this? Just a week later, on September 4th, AD 476, Odoacer stands at the gate of Ravenna. It's the same walls that once stopped Alaric. They're 30 feet high, 8 feet thick, strategic location. It's where the teen boy king, Romulus Augustulus, is representing the old Roman ways, the empire hero that's lasted for 1,000 years. Is anyone going to come and fight to defend? If so, who would they be if they weren't Odoacer and the other troops, the federates of this land? So no Roman field army comes together. There is no battle mustered, and the Senate does not call for resistance. The Senate convenes. They find a way to cooperate. The men whose grandfathers had melted the statues of Rome to pay Alaric just a few generations ago are now saying that no crowd is available to rise and fight for this boy king, Romulus Augustulus. One way to look at this legitimate claim, the promise of land, they are owed. And the things that the Romans actually lived by, which is law, courts, having markets, the grain dole, the churches, none of that would be threatened if the Senate finds a way. So this tertiae, that share of taxes and land, will give some authority. The Senate will be giving up more power. But do you see what's about to happen? Come into the throne room, the chamber. This is abdication. What is abdication? To abdicate, to formally give up the throne. Are you surprised at all? If you have a comment, what did you think was going to happen? But this teenager is going to abdicate. He's not going to fight. No one in Rome is coming together to fight. The Senate has not called for a fight. He is going to hand over. He is going to walk away. The teen who had coins with his face on it, perfect coins, 4.4 grams of gold, a solidi. Those solidi, perfect money, but there is no power there. And now stand like Odoacer, total victory in front of you. What's next? What's going to happen to Romulus Augustulus? Everybody knows these past 21 years, we've churned through 8 emperors, and most of them end up dead. So what's one more, right? It clears up the authority question, and no one's going to raise an army to come and fight yours. But does it feel like we're really at the end? And Odoacer, what could he do if he spared Romulus Augustulus? Leave him alive, because he's young, and he could even find some advantages about sparing this boy. People might take favor on the magnanimity of someone like Odoacer. So yes, he's spared. Not only is he spared, but let's give him a pension. What is a pension? Money for life. He's going to get paid an annual salary of 6,000 solidi. That is 60 pounds of gold. You could do the math on what that would be, like in today's money, but it's a very high level income. They compare it to what a senator would make, an honored senator. And actually the math works perfectly on that, I think, if you're interested. Oh, but wait, there's more. Not only is he spared, he's going to get 6,000 solidi. He is going to get this incredible location to live in, back to his home of Campania. This is in the south. This is Pompeii. It's Naples. It's Napoli, Neapolis, originally. And this location, this old castle that he would have lived in, this is actually a Norman castle that was built on top of it. I mean, look at this little peninsula. Is there anything more scenic and beautiful in this part of the world? Part of Italy. It's an incredibly beautiful area. And you would have remembered this from lesson 62 as we went to Pompeii to see what Roman life was like in a place like this. So this is the end for Romulus Augustulus. He is spared. He's given a generous salary and a beautiful place to live. The Senate of Rome dispatches an embassy to Constantinople, and they're going to deliver something of some significance. What is it? If I ask you to go back through all 1,000 years of Roman lessons, the mos maiorum, that's Latin, for the old Roman ways, the values, what would be the symbols that conveyed the meaning? The regalia, the purple robe, the scepter, the eagle, the diadem, jewels, shoes that had jewels on them. These are some of the lavish luxuries of Romulus Augustulus and what represented the throne. The throne is very much symbolic for the seat of government. Why do kings and queens look so fancy? Why are they honored in such a high way? Well, the historian Malchus is preserving a message that went with all of these old artifacts from Rome that were brought to Zeno, the emperor of Constantinople. And why do you think they are receiving this? What is the question that Constantinople, that Zeno is going to have to deal with? Is one monarch enough? Is one capital enough? Constantinople says, hey, we're the only Roman legacy left. We're the only throne. Zeno could be the only emperor. The West is not destroyed. It's just been reworked, kind of absorbed, folded back into Eastern authority in a little way. Maybe that'll get cleared up in future, but the first reason for the fall of Rome was the division, the East-West division. And from the view of Zeno, we're undividing it. We'll attempt to be the only emperor for 500 years. Western emperors from Augustus, all the way to the boy named Romulus Augustulus. That's one complete set of Western. And he's been deposed. He's gone. The Italian peninsula is kind of under the control of barbarians, and not very strongly, as we will get to in Lesson 72. It's almost like Cicero predicted this in his lesson of practical wisdom. He talked about prudence, the deficiency of prudence. If prudence is a virtue, deficiency is recklessness. Like Odoacer could have seized the diadem, could have killed the boy, could have claimed a title from the Senate and taken over the church. What would Constantinople do if he had done those things? Right? Open declaration of war. The excess of that prudence would be timidity, to leave a hollow office. Like Odoacer comes in, he throws the kid off the throne and then doesn't do anything to represent authority. That would be too timid. And that wasn't what this is. But his balance, his virtue in the middle, Odoacer gave a signal. And he didn't give a reason for Constantinople to come and threaten. Odoacer spared the boy, and he spared the old Roman ways to the degree that we could send those artifacts over to Constantinople. So do you see that as a question? Do you see that happening in your life too, where there was some wisdom applied here? There was some virtue. And part of our legacy too. Odoacer only rules as rex, Latin for king. That's military power that is just German, these Germanic barbarians. The civil administration is still going to look like kind of this Roman thing. And the Senate is not going to go away. They're actually going to seem more prestigious under Odoacer, who's just the king, not an emperor. No more empire. It's gone. Still some Roman law, Roman taxes, the coins, the mint, the grain dole kind of continues. The Eastern, Western gold circulating with trade. And Nepos, remember Nepos was ruling from across the sea in Dalmatia until the year 480. So that's 4 years after the official fall of Rome. And Dalmatia is technically in the east, but you can see the confusion. The way Rome has fallen. Now, let's look. We didn't have a big battle at the end. We still have a Senate. We still have the cities. Everything is just greatly reduced, a low-level economy. Old Roman aristocracy, they're preserved. Their estates are still there. And to the Christian church, the hero's own house. This was the old fortress castle that Tiberius had retired to. The old name for it, the Luculacnum, that you can see is the exile spot with unbelievable beauty, strategic location. This will be for the last emperor's remaining days. And his mom is there in 84-88. She installs the monks of Saint Severinus and the mos maiorum, the old Roman ways for Western civilization. What is carried on? The Roman ideas, the duty, and the virtue will endure. Now, a very interesting letter by Cassiodorus, somewhere around 510, AD 510, it shows that Romulus Augustulus is still being paid his pension. When I first learned that, I was actually amazed because he essentially is retiring. It's a beautiful place. I keep saying that because it is. But that survived, even though this last thing I'll tell you is that Odoacer doesn't survive. Odoacer himself falls at a truce banquet in the year 493. He's killed by King Theodoric's own hand as a rival, different Goth, an Eastern Goth. Theodoric comes in and takes the power. The fall. So why does Rome fall? It's a real process. This one event hopefully surprised you a little bit on how low-key it was, but very significant for a classical scholar like yourself because you want to know all the details in the background. The throne did die. There is no Roman throne after this in the West, but Rome's ways don't. And power definitely fades in the West. Constantinople still has more coming. Virtue endures in the law courts. And what kids are learning in the monastery right there in the Bay of Naples. And even though this empire fell over 1,500 years ago, the lessons don't. That's what makes these kingdoms classical. It's not about how long they stood, but how long these lessons really matter. You've added a very important one. This whole series, to make you a scholar, you can see how to think and what to do, especially on this major topic of the reason for the fall of the Roman Empire. And don't miss out on the full course. Everything stitches together at classicalkingdoms.com. The division, the defense, the debt, and the death here in this lesson. We have one more for you, and that would be the decay, something that will give us an enduring lesson, of course. Thank you for taking the time to learn something that matters in all of history. And that includes your journey, because kingdoms rise and fall. Power fades, but virtue endures.